2 weeks of
Yeah.
Georgia hate
Yeah.
have begun. Bye
Yes.
week
Yes.
at a perfectly timed place coming in here.
Yep.
Oh, and we do have all our guests are coming. So fun
Yep.
show for you tonight. We have two guests on here that will make this into a very erudite conversation because of how smart they are and how
Right.
lacking we are. So we appreciate them showing
Yes.
up
Yes.
tonight to kind of navigate the waters. Got a lot to talk about, and one of the guests has actually already suggested some non college football, but very
Yep.
pertinent Alabama news. So we will definitely hit the Tua and Bryce situations before we get
The-
off the air tonight. So
and
real
one
quick,
one thing, right quick, heard the good thing about having these repeat guests on people who we know and we consider family is that we don't have to mollycoddle them. We just got to treat them the way they are. We get to treat them like family, and we get to show them some love, and we can talk and we can joke, and it's always cool to have these two on.
yes, sir. I agree with that wholeheartedly on both. So let's, without further ado, or as we like to say, with further
That's
ado,
what I do.
we'll say hello to some people real quick. Roll Tide, what's up, Kat? How are we
Outside
doing
cat,
tonight? Head Lady Alpha, two of
the alpha
our
pool is in the
regulars.
building.
Yep, the Alpha Pools are in the building. So
Yes.
thank you for that. And what's up, Win? Appreciate you as
Win.
well checking
Thank
in.
you for
Hope you
joining
enjoy the
us.
show tonight. Yep. And I got to share our show. All right. So, Raj, two guests. And let me go ahead and tell you the intros are getting tougher and tougher because you get to a point where these people are practically family instead
Yes.
of guests.
I
So,
go ahead.
no, so I apologize. There's no disrespect to our guests. That I do love y'all, and we're still gonna give you intros, but
Yeah.
it's getting tougher, man. All right, so this first person, Raj,
Okay.
he was actually the person that came up with Roll Tide, and I know he looks a lot younger. I know you're
I
gonna think that's
always
a lot older, but
and I always wondered about that. I always wondered about that. Where did that
yes,
phrase come from? Okay.
yes. When people see him out, he's been on our show so often. When people see him out in public, they think that he's our cousin because they've seen
Okay.
him on there so much. Yep.
Okay.
So, and he was just recently voted one of the top 10 most influential people in Alabama.
Okay.
Welcome to the stage, Bama Beat. How are you, sir?
Bama Beat.
I'm good, guys. How are y'all?
Doing good. Doing
Because of the
good.
cousin one, he did not think that intro was about him.
Yeah. You got threw a
Yeah,
curveball with that
you
one.
took me by surprise there.
What's up, man? You doing all right tonight?
Yeah, I'm good. Can't believe we're already approaching week 4 of the season. And
Yep.
Yes.
it always goes by too fast.
Agreed.
It does. It
Agreed.
does.
Agreed.
And there's a lot to talk about already. And we, even though we're during a bye week, so it's good to be here unscathed. Well, not necessarily unscathed, but undefeated. I'll say that.
Yes.
So we
Yep.
made it.
Our second guest again is also kind of one of our regulars. And as always, Raj, you know this past weekend he had a foot race with Marvin Constant,
Yep.
40-yard dash. He beat him by 10 minutes, if you can believe that or not. It was crazy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, I don't make the rules, Raj. I just
Okay.
read stuff. Okay. Yep. He's been on the show so much, and people see that chair, they think he's actually our uncle. So that's what
Uncle
he gets called when
Steve.
he's up.
Uncle
Yes,
Steve.
Yep. Uncle
Okay.
Steve. Yep. And this
Okay.
past weekend, Stephen A. Smith actually called him and asked if he could tone it down a little bit because people are starting to be Stephen M. is more popular than him. So
Okay.
he's actually getting a little scared. Let's welcome to the stage Stephen M.
Stephen M.
What's up,
How are
guys?
you,
How you
sir?
feeling?
We're doing good. How are you doing? One question we have for you, Stephen. How is Don the chair doing? How's the chair doing, man?
You know, Don's doing great. He's
Okay.
getting his just due. How you feeling,
Okay.
buddy? He's feeling good. He's got a blanket on right
my
now.
goodness.
I
He's
see.
getting a royal
It's
treat. He's
a
got a
little nippy
blanket
out
on
there.
right now.
Yeah. Okay.
So what do we have to do to get Bama Beat a chair like that though? Like what's the next stage? Like we can't
You know
have
what?
you
I'm
have all
at
the
putting
perks.
I'm at putting a call to Deacon Bennett. You know, get him a chair shipped. So I'll put in the call.
All right.
Yep. And that is what it is when it's a family affair. Both these guys have been on here, both been gracious enough to be on our shows and honestly just carry our shows with on here. Like I told them all off air, half the time when these guys come on, I can just go grab my food, grab some popcorn, and just sit back and watch, man. So we definitely appreciate both of you guys being on here. And there's a roll tide roll from Big Mike.
Shout out to
What's
Big
up,
Mike.
Mike? All right, so we're gonna start with some general questions and then we'll kind of narrow it down. We'll start with you, Bama. Initial kind of thoughts, 3 games in, general thoughts, I should say, 3 games in, kind of going into this bye week. How you feeling about the team?
Yeah, I mean, I feel pretty good at this point. I think the competition level has gotten better with each week. Still not sure that Alabama's faced a team that can really test them. South Florida game's probably the biggest negative we've seen so far through 3 games, but I thought they regrouped nicely against Wisconsin. That was probably the cleanest game they've played all season. The offensive side of the ball, I felt like they started to find some more crispness in that on the offensive side of the ball in that Wisconsin game. Defense, I still feel like is coming along. They're trying to fill out this new scheme. So, um, I guess long story short, I feel pretty good about it, but I'm not sure we really, know too much at this point based on the teams Alabama's played.
Right. Stephen, if you want to pick up from there, because I definitely agree with that. And I'll say this on that point. I was never worried about Wisconsin from the time it came on the schedule because I just didn't feel like they were the type of I felt like it was good to have a road game and then a bye, and we can kind of see how that plays out. But I never thought that Wisconsin was the type of team that would test us. But Stephen M, you want to jump in from there?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, of course, I was watching the penultimate inning of the Braves Yankees game there. So got to the second to last inning there before jumping on here. But as the Braves are trying to get the wild card, they're behind the Mets. They're not going to win the division because the Phillies. But anyway, when you look at this game against Wisconsin, I was pleased with the offensive line being back, right? Because that was a lot of people's worries was the offensive line, especially after the patchwork that was put together against South Florida. Guys not playing the positions that they're normally used to. We saw that Caden Proctor's important. We saw that. And to have that young man back at his left tackle spot, you put Tyler Booker back at his natural space at left guard, and you have Elijah Pritchett starting at right tackle. Now you have an offensive line that's really about something. And we saw that clean pocket for Jalen Milroe throughout the game. You were able to run the football. You went from your offensive front having, 8 penalties against South Florida to you only had 2 against Wisconsin. That's a big improvement there. Definitely want to see more of this 4-2-5 defense be a bit better stopping the run. Alabama gave up, a lot of big run plays to Wisconsin, but I guess the 4-2-5 is something where you can give a bit more in the run, but clamp down more on the pass, something that Kane Womack kind of specializes in. I was proud of Rogers' boy Germ, the Germinator, got out there. Germ, 3 catches, 55 yards, nice touchdown catch there of 26 yards. So you're starting to see more wide receivers get involved. So like Bama Beat mentioned, we still haven't had that team to test the Crimson Tide yet, for real. We could see Georgia being that team with Carson Beck at quarterback next week. So we'll see how this team attacks the Georgia prep getting ready for the game.
Raj, I know most of your thoughts, and I know they've covered a lot, but do you want to kind of give your initials before we kind of go into a little bit more detail with that?
To kind of echo what Stephen M. Smith said, I think going into the Wisconsin game, and you and I talked about this thing that I wanted to see was as far as our offensive line just being able to gel together, and they look good in the Wisconsin game. I think we suffered 2 sacks, just a few penalties, just a few minor things here and there, but they looked in sync. They were protected well. We were able to run the ball well. We were able to give Milroe some time.
If I had known you were going to use in sync, I would have had an in sync joke ready. Oh.
Please don't have an NC joke where we have 4 grown adults on. We don't. Yeah, no, we don't do that. Also, Milroe's deep ball passing looks good. That pass that he threw to Bernard, the Germinator, looked really, really good. We know what he can do with Ryan Williams. Speaking of Ryan Williams, I even said before the season started, I didn't know how much playing time he was going to get this year. I was absolutely wrong about that. He's got 4 touchdown receptions. I'm not exactly sure how many yards.
Somebody was going to score. He said, "It's going to be me."
Okay. All right, I give you that one. But offensively, I think overall we're looking pretty good. There's still some things I want to see as far as like a red zone offense. Again, this is something Herb and I discussed. It seems like once we get to like the 20-yard line, we have a tendency to run the ball a lot, or Miller wants to run the ball in. I would love to use the tight ends a little more. Josh Cuevas, nickname Quavo, I guess. I don't know if it's me just calling him Quavo or somebody else calling him Quavo, but he's got some good hands on him. I would love to see him being utilized more. I know he's averaging 1 reception a game, but I think he can touch the ball a little more. Defensively, I like the way we're looking. The run defense against South Florida was a little botchy, so to speak, but I think that's going to improve over time.
Speaking of tight ends, Bam, are you going to bring your boy Nyblack back to home, or are you shaking your head? He's kicked out for good.
Well, he's not doing too great at Texas.
No, he's not.
He's been a role player so far at best.
Yeah.
So we talk about a lot as far as the transfer portal goes. The grass is not always greener. So this may be one of those cases. I will say one thing on that Wisconsin game I was a little disappointed in was the unfortunate injury to Tyler Van Dyke.
Yeah.
I'm not saying Tyler Van Dyke is an All-American or anything, but I think if he had stayed in the game, maybe they could have tested Alabama's defense a little greater than they did with Braden Locke at quarterback. I would have liked to have seen that, especially with Alabama's secondary, the inexperience back there in the back end. I think Tyler Van Dyke could have tested them a little bit more. We've seen some guys get loose against Alabama's secondary, but so far there hasn't been a quarterback that could take advantage of that.
Yeah.
When Alabama plays Georgia here in about a week and a half, Carson Beck's a guy who could potentially take advantage of that. So that's one thing I'm watching with Alabama's defense. As y'all said, some of the run defense issues that we've seen so far. Again, that's I think natural to Kane Womack's scheme. People need to get used to the fact that this is not a two-gap scheme on the defensive line anymore. Saban's defense, his two-gap scheme, was the gold standard for defending the run in college football. It's not going to be that way anymore, and that doesn't mean Alabama's is going to have a bad run defense, but it's not going to look the same. So that's two things that I'm watching. As we go into this Georgia game and as the season progresses, is can Alabama improve on the back end and their coverage? I think they will with more experience back there, but also the run defense, how that develops with the structure of Kane Womack's defense.
Yeah. Steve, you want to pick up from there where he's talking about what do you think about their, how they're picking up the scheme? Is it going a little slower than you anticipated as well, or you feel like they're on track?
I thought they're on track. I mean, as Bama just mentioned there, the run defense, you're going to give a bit more than what you did under Coach Saban because you had 7 guys in the box in the Nick Saban defense. Was a 3-4 nickel scheme, which was 2 gaps. Your defensive linemen were eating up space, allowing your linebackers to converge and make tackles. Where in the Kane Womack 4-2-5 swarm, it's more of you just attack your box, right? And you get to come off of your box, get the guy off of you, and go back in the backfield and make a play. And that's the reason why we're seeing, guys like LT Overton, Tim Keenan, Jamarian Latham. These guys are really stepping up here on the defensive line, making plays because they're not gap holders anymore. They can win their box, win their man, win their matchup. Hey, go make a play on the football. So it's you give up a bit more on the run to allow guys to be playmakers, and then allow some success there trying to create turnovers. That's the big thing that I want to see from this Alabama defense, is continuing to get those takeaways, and it starts with those guys in the secondary honing in on their responsibilities. We did see moments where there was Xavier Brown getting beat on plays, Red Morgan getting beat back there. Those guys have got to sharpen it up there in terms of not letting go of these wide receivers, in terms of sticking with them on routes. So I think that's the main thing. Secondary, not allowing guys to get by it, and Bama is able to generate pressure there on Carson Beck, and a lot of pressure on Carson Beck then should be a good one for Alabama. Another thing, guys, is getting that Kendrick Law play sheet out, right?
Yes.
He is doing a tremendous job blocking on the perimeter. Like this dude against Wisconsin was cracking people down in terms of blocking, and he needs to be rewarded in the offensive passing game. So, if I'm Nick Sheridan this upcoming week, I'm having a Kendrick Law play sheet. Okay, K-Law, what do you feel comfortable with running this week? Do you want to run jet sweep? Do you want to run hot pass? Do you want to run end around? Do you want to run something from the slot, something from the outside? What do you feel comfortable with? Because what he has done unselfishly in blocking, he should be rewarded with the football against Georgia.
Yeah, and he's got the speed, and I would love to see him be used kind of like the 49ers use like Debo Samuel, not necessarily like a deep ball threat, but just get the ball in his hands and let him use his speed and his power to kind of get around and get some production out there. So I kind of feel like he goes
a lot.
Yeah. And
I don't know if y'all recall the end around that Kendrick Law had against Auburn last year that went for a touchdown and was called back for a holding penalty on I believe it was CJ Dupree. But that's some type of plays that I would like to see Kendrick Law incorporated in. I mean, he's got so much explosion, and you go back and watch that play. I mean, he got past the defense in a hurry.
Yeah,
and not only just that, Bama, just even put him in motion and have him flanking Milroe as a running back, and let him take the handoff from Milroe. Like just anything to what Kendrick Law does, and he makes the eyes of a defense undisciplined, right? Because now you have to account for him, which takes away one defender because he's looking like, okay, where is number one Law going to go here? So he does such a great job of making an opposing defense undisciplined, and you have to be able to manipulate that and use that. And we haven't seen Nick Sheridan kind of dive into that arsenal of that part of the bag, not just with King All, but also Kobe Prentice. And we have yet to see him dive more into the bag with Prentice. We saw Prentice touchdown catch against South Florida, but here's a guy that, his first two seasons, he showed I'm a playmaker. You get me the football, I can make plays on the field. So those are just two guys that I would like to see Nick Sheridan go, okay, let's free up Prentice. Let's free up Long. And let's get these guys into the offensive flow.
Yeah. I agree with that one. I love K-Law, of course, too, because he hits that corner and then it's bye. Dun, dun. No? Okay.
Now, hold on. Before we move on, I know we were just mentioning the defense as well. One name going into the season that I was kind of excited to hear about and excited to see his production this year was Keon Keeley, but haven't really seen much of him this year. Can either of you provide any insight as to maybe his lack of playing time? Has he just not been practicing well? Or is he just not? I hate to say this. Is he just not who we thought he would be as a Bama player right now?
Let me both pause for the other person.
Sorry. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I don't know if Steven's got any more insight on that, but he is changing positions. He spent his first year with Alabama in the outside linebacker room, so now he's with the defensive line group. I would say from a numbers standpoint, Alabama's really deep at that position, and they've got a lot of guys that have experience at the college level and have played defensive line for quite some time. So I feel like Keon Keeley's kind of in an adjustment period right now. He's changing his body a little bit to play defensive line. So, that's the only thing I could, explain his lack of playing time at this point. And I'm not at practice every day like the coaches are, but I certainly think there should be some grace there with Keon Keeley with that position move.
I look at it like this, and echoing with Bama Beat, what Bama just said there is it is a position change. He's gone from outside linebacker to defensive end, and he's playing in a whole different defense. He came in under Nick Saban, so Coach Saban retires. You bring in Kane Womack on Kalen DeBoer staff. It's a whole change defensively that he's had to adjust to. Also, the body transformation where he's concerned, going from 242 to 277, but also not necessarily ready yet. And that's not a problem. Some Alabama fans have the mindset of, well, if you're a 4 or 5 star, then you should be able to just turn it on the moment you get on campus. No excuses. You're a 4 star. You're a 5 star. You should be that guy. You should be that dude the moment you set foot on campus. Not everybody is like that. For some players, it takes time. For example, the great Jonathan Allen, he did not just set foot on campus and wreck shop. He came in 2013, but Jonathan Allen didn't become the Jonathan Allen until 2 years later, 2015. So for some people, it takes time. Yeah. Ryan Anderson, another one. Ryan Anderson came in 2012? But he didn't start to become that Ryan Anderson until like 2015. The same thing with Timmy Williams. Timmy Williams came in 2013 from Baton Rouge as a 5-star, but he didn't start to become that Timmy Tasmanian Devil Williams until 2 years later. So for some 5-stars, it takes them some time. And for Keon Keeley, he's behind several dudes that have paid their dues. He's behind the Tim Keenan. He's behind a Tim Smith. He's behind an LT Overton. He's behind a Jaheim Otis. He's behind an LT Overton. And that's fine because some of these guys are going to be going pro after this season. So you look at next year is going to be Keeley's opportunity. He's getting great coaching from Freddie Roach. He's getting great coaching from Jamie Mosley. It's just right now, the depth, as Bama mentioned, you're changing a new position, a new coaching staff's coming here. There's a lot that Keeley has had to adapt to.
I agree.
Solid
answer your question. No,
I think it's a good perspective from both of them because, and Stephen had pointed out, it is something that some of us Bama fans tend to do is once you see a 4 or 5-star, you get excited. You say, oh man, this guy's going to start right away. And but once they get to campus, they realize they're playing again behind guys that are going to the league next year or 1 or 2 years from now. So you're going to sit there, sit tight, get some reps in, develop under some good coaching. And then when your time comes, you'll be ready to shine.
Yep. All right, going back to the offensive side of the ball, I was listening to Josh Pate earlier today and talking about Alabama and the Wisconsin game. And something Raj and I have talked about a lot is, our offense, we don't do drives. It's like I'd like to see a drive put together. We just don't do drives. And he just flat out said it, like we don't have an intermediate passing game and we never we might not ever, 15 of our 22 touchdowns that were 20 plus yards. So starting with you, Bama, do you see that like as a problem for later? Should we just kind of get used to it, a home run hitting kind of offense, and this is something we can still flow on? Or do you have any concerns, or am I really just overthinking it?
Well, here's where I disagree with Josh Pate on one point. I think Alabama can run the ball this year much more consistently than they did last year. Last year was a very boom or bust offense. Part of that was having a first-year starting quarterback, some of the mistakes, self-inflicted penalties, especially along the offensive line that, resulted in negative plays. But to me, this year, it's probably still going to be a little boom or bust because that's Milroe's nature. Obviously, the intermediate passing game is not his strong point. But I think he can do enough in that area. And if Alabama can run the ball consistently, I think they will be able to sustain drives better than they did last year. And, when you're going up against SEC defenses week in and week out, there is some advantage to being a boom offense that can be explosive and can make big plays. Because when you're going up against good SEC defenses like Georgia, Tennessee's defense looks pretty strong so far. There is an advantage in being explosive because you don't have to grind out yards. You don't have to grind out scores as much. So, I do think, the intermediate passing game is something Alabama wants to continue to develop and needs to develop a little bit. But, I think they can, get by for the most part with running the football and being a shot offense.
Stephen, and I see you shaking your head. You agree with them, huh?
I do, and I think the biggest difference between this year and last year is, last year you're working with, Tommy Rees as the offensive coordinator at this.
I thought we agreed never to speak that name again. I thought
so you got him working at this magnitude of a program, right? Which he was not ready for. Versus this season, you have a collection of offensive minds around Jalen Milroe. It's not just Kagan DeBoer. You have a Nick Sheridan. You have a Jamarcus Shepard. You have a Brian Ellis, who played quarterback at UAB and was also the quarterback coach and offensive coordinator at Georgia Southern before coming to the University of Alabama. So you have a collection of offensive minds around Milroe. So that's been a huge upside as well for him. Does Alabama need to still work on developing that intermediate passing game? Oh, absolutely. Because there's going to be matchups where teams are going to want to take away Ryan Williams, whether it's brackets, whether it's through rolling the coverage his way. So You're going to have to look at some slant patterns. You're going to have to look at some curls, some comeback routes, some dig routes. You're going to have to look at some shorter pass plays to, soften up that defense to where they're thinking, okay, well, now we can't just roll the coverage over to Ryan Williams because they have other things now growing within the offense. So you got to get the intermediate passing game going. But as Bama mentioned, I feel like if you're able to run the football, which Bama is showing life that they can do that consistently, you can take your deep shots, but then also grow with that passing game. I think the Tide's going to be fine. The best thing is you have the offensive line back that you can get continuity with. With this offensive line you have here, you should be able to have that continuity, which plays into everything else falling in place.
Okay.
Well stated.
All right, Bama, give me one player, and Kendrick Law was already mentioned, so you can't steal that one. One player that's maybe not been as heralded or that we've talked about, but you felt like has done a good job or you want to give props to that maybe is, kind of flown under the radar a little bit. Yeah, Mike. Only every broadcast, right? There's a rumor that goes
every time someone talks about Ryan Williams, they mention the fact that he's 17. We get it.
Yeah. Or Bama, because I did put you on the spot with that one, you can also give me, or instead of, you give me a person who you're looking to step up after these first 3 games that maybe we haven't seen as much. And I say that because you are one of the people that mentioned, or the only person that mentioned us, Amari Black, before he kind of had his little breakout. So, and Steven, that's one of the reasons why we mentioned him bringing back, because he was a Black fan for a couple of years before he had his really good year, and then all of a sudden he left us. So.
Well, I'll answer both of your questions. I'd say someone who's under the radar, who I think's doing a good job, is not getting a lot of press, is CJ Dupree. He's doing a really good job blocking. And, everybody with tight ends gets caught up in pass catching, and that's great.
Right.
I think he's a guy that can contribute in that area, but he's doing a really good job blocking. He seems to be a team player. He'll do whatever the coaches need him to do. And then somebody I'd like to see emerge a little bit more is Justice Haynes. And that may be a touches thing so far. I think it feels like Jam's probably gotten the bulk of the touches from the running back position so far. Some of that is, I think Kalen DeBoer talked about yesterday, some of Justice's opportunities may have gone to Milroe on some zone read stuff. So that's one thing I've been surprised with, is how heavy Alabama is using the quarterback run. And I think it's great. It's been very effective. But I do think, some of those touches could be, pulled to Justice Haynes. And that may benefit Alabama's offense. I feel like Alabama's kind of in an area right now where they may be a little heavy on quarterback run against most opponents. And they maybe could dial that back a little bit and get some more touches for Justice Haynes. So that's a guy I'd like to see, continue to emerge in that the 2-headed monster in the backfield.
Mm-hmm. And Raj, I assume your person was Keon Keeley. That was who you were kind of looking for.
Not necessarily for this question. It was the guy that I mentioned earlier, Quavo. I would love to see him getting some more touches on the ball. And I feel like if we utilize the tight ends more, and maybe this is to Bama Beat's point too, with CJ Dupree, just utilize the tight ends more as far as the catching game. That'll open up to some of the short to intermediate passing schemes that we can utilize going forward.
Okay. We got to do a little housekeeping. I would be remiss if I didn't let him get in his little in-seat joke as well, too. So, Mike, I appreciate you. But if no one else appreciates it, I appreciate you.
I appreciate it too, Mike.
So, and Bo, so then I said, what's up, Bo?
Shout out to Bo.
Bo's one of the busiest men that I know, probably right next to Stevie Dibb. So, glad he got a chance to stop in. And Randy, so we've got a 2-part special coming up with Randy. Randy's a Georgia fan, got a great podcast, comes on Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I'm an Alabama fan telling you about a Georgia podcast. That tells you how good it is. We've also got a special coming up with him the next 2 Thursdays in a row, 9 p.m. Central. We'll be on there with Randy. We'll be doing this week, we'll kind of be doing assessing the teams, and next week we'll have some people on and we'll be doing picks for the actual game. So, and if you see Randy's little post on there about advantage, he's been doing this all day saying Alabama has advantage in this game. I'm not buying any of it. Georgia's still Georgia, and I think that we got to respect them coming to our house. So let's get one thing out the way real quick, because I always forget this. So Vic might put this together for us. It's halfway through the show. It's a good time for it. your bye week fun fact.
What's up, everybody? It's Big Mike back again with this week's edition of Bama Opponents Fun Fact, Bye Week Edition. The term bye week today normally means our favorite teams get to rest and recover, but originally, a bye week in sports had a very different meaning. One of the earliest uses of the term bye was used in a sport called coursing, which is a sport where dogs compete against each other chasing various game animals. In coursing, a dog that ran a bye would run its course without an opponent, often because there was an odd number of competitors. This would ensure that each dog ran the same number of races as its competitors to keep everything fair. And that's this week's edition of Bama Opponents Fun Fact. Roll Tide, everybody.
Appreciate you, Big Mike. Appreciate you.
Never disappoints. Never disappoints.
Kudos to Big Mike.
Yeah.
Did not know that.
Yeah. And yes, Kat, that's why I say we're not posted on there.
Yeah.
Definitely rat poison coming from Georgia. All right, Stephen M., you mentioned this before the show. You wanted to give us an injury update.
Now, before the injury update, I did want to get into my guy that I think that's done very well here for Alabama thus far, and that needs more conversation. I mean, a guy that I feel like needs to step up in the next games to come down the road here. I think the guy that's not getting enough conversation, what a year James Burnip is having. I understand the punter is not the most talked about position, but James Burnip is starting to look like J.K. Scott. He really is. I mean, the dude is averaging 48 yards a punt right now. The guys had half his punts, 7 of 14 punts have traveled 50-plus yards. He's putting his foot into these attempts. 5 of his 14 punts have dropped inside the 20. He is flipping the field extremely well, and this can be a weapon, a major weapon for Alabama against Georgia, forcing them into uncomfortable field position all game long inside Bryant-Denny. So a big ups there to James Burnip. In terms of a guy that I would like to see step up a little bit more, I'm going to go defensively. I'm going to go with Devontae Smith in the secondary. I need to see a bit more from him. I know he hasn't played much due to the injuries he's had the earlier part of his career, but he knows this culture. He knows this program. He knows what these big matchups mean. So I definitely want to see a bit more of Devontae Smith at that Husky position stepping up there. Now, in terms of the injury report, there's only one guy that Alabama's coaching staff is trying to have evaluate or reevaluate to make sure he's good to go, and that's Richard Young, the redshirt freshman running back. Richard had a lower leg injury against Wisconsin, and so right now, according to Coach DeBoer, he's being reevaluated. But for the next few days, we'll get the final word on Richard Young, Malachi Moore, Quay Russaw, Cole Adams. They're all fine. Malachi took a hit to the head. He's cool. Made it through concussion protocol. He's okay. Quay Russaw had a bit of an ankle sprain that kept him off his ankle Monday and today. They'll try to get him some work in Wednesday's practice and Thursday's practice. Quay Russaw's fine. And then thankfully, Cole Adams, after he did not play against Wisconsin after an arm injury against South Florida, he's been working extremely well. They look to have him back against Georgia.
Nice.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for doing that. Appreciate that.
The only one of the advantage ones I could post was this one, but Randy's podcast is dwarfing us, so I don't even know if we can do that. So, yes, Kat, it is all rat poison. So,
just to reiterate, sorry to butt in, but just to reiterate what Steve
first off,
said,
it's not butting in if you're one of the stars. So
yeah, you got the floor, Bama. You go ahead.
I do think James Burnip is a great one to go with there because, I mean, if Alabama is going to be an offense that is not super efficient, I mean, obviously the goal is to be as efficient as possible on offense, but if they are going to be, what we would call an inefficient offense, where maybe there's occasionally a series of downs that they don't move the ball real well, to be able to flip the field like that and have a weapon at punter, that's going to negate some of that lack of ball movement that could happen, on drives where Alabama's not too successful. So I think that's a great point.
Yeah.
I like it. That's my boy E.
Shout out to E.
He was actually at the Wisconsin game this week,
Yep.
so I think one of the key points on why we won that game was E being there and
E's
moving us
presence.
on. So what's up, E? Yes, sir. Appreciate it. All right. Usually when we have Bama on here for sure, we always do this. So we'll take it through. We won't do position by position, so we'll just do offensive defense just because of time constraints. But Bama, what outside of the kicking game, so we're just going strictly offense. What do you grade the offense out after 3 weeks?
So I'd probably be around a B plus with this offense. Just considering the level of competition they've faced so far, I think Western Kentucky was a weird game. Just there wasn't a lot of flow to that game, some short fields. I don't really feel like we got a good idea coming out of that game, what the level of offensive execution was. South Florida was obviously really choppy, really sloppy. It really didn't get going until, 5 or 6 minutes left in the game. So I wouldn't say that was a great performance. And then this Wisconsin game, I really felt like they started to find their stride. I thought it was maybe Milroe's best game in an Alabama uniform when you're talking about playing within the system, running the ball, passing the ball, being in command of the offense. We didn't see many mistakes. That offensive line should be credited for that, but I think Milroe played a part in that with the command he showed of the offense. So you kind of got a myriad of results there on the offensive side of the ball in the first 3 games. And I think, this Georgia game is going to tell us a lot about where the offense is going up against one of the best defenses in the country. So I'd probably be around a B plus, okay with what we've seen so far, but I don't want to put them up in that A territory just yet.
And Raj, I saw you shaking your head. You agree? Is that where you're at as well?
I was going to say B plus too. From what I've seen, the offenses look pretty good. There's still a few things that I want to see us kind of garner up as the season progresses. But overall, we look good in the running game. Deep ball passing threat is obviously there. It was there last year. We've got some things that we need to work on, but overall, I'm pleased with the offense. I say B plus. I'm okay.
Yep. Uncle Steven, are you making are you rounding us out with a B plus as well?
I go B plus as well. I mean, still some things you want to see, but I like the health of the offensive line, number one. Milroe is continuing to grow and develop. We're seeing more wide receivers get involved. We'd like to see more guys get into that rhythm, but B plus for right now. Yeah.
Bama, what about the defensive side of the ball?
So I'd probably be at a B on the defensive side of the ball. If you want to be really critical, you could go B minus. But again, I don't think there's been an opponent that could really take advantage of some of the weaknesses we've seen in Alabama's defense so far. I'd like to see that run defense sure up a little bit. We talked about the scheme limitations that exist with that. There's been a lot of guys, as Stephen M. said earlier, that have gotten away in the secondary. You've seen Devontae Smith, Red Morgan, Xavier Brown trailing some guys that the quarterback just, he couldn't take advantage of just because of the level of competition so far. Carson Beck, Nico, some of these better quarterbacks Alabama's going to face are going to hit those passes. So, they've only given up 2 touchdowns so far this year. So, that's a great result from a points perspective. But, I think there are some weaknesses there that, at least we've seen to this point that could be exploited later. Kane Womack was talking yesterday about how they haven't used much of their defensive play calls and they haven't implemented a lot of what they've got hidden. So that's something to keep in mind. I think Alabama's been very vanilla in these first 3 weeks. So I imagine saving some of that for Georgia and future opponents. So that's one thing that I'd like to see, definitely implemented over the coming weeks is, Cam Womack's known for being a really aggressive play caller, and we haven't seen that so far. I would say Alabama's played it pretty conservative. So I think at this point, just kind of an average rating until we kind of see the defense unleashed is probably fair.
Mm-hmm. Steven, are you on the same page there? Or...
I'm on the same page with the B grading. I mean, for me, what I would like to see a bit more of is just guys holding their edge on the outside. Yeah. We've seen it quite a few times where in the run game, on run defense, guys are in the same gap, and that has allowed some guys to get around the corner, or the guys are not sustaining their edges on the outside. So I would like to see a bit more gap integrity, gap control, gap discipline there against the run. But in the secondary, you definitely want to see the defensive backs play better coverage with these wide receivers. The three quarterbacks you face so far, TJ Finley, Byron Brown, and of course, unfortunate Tyler Van Dyke got knocked out the game, but Braden Locke, those are not your NFL arm caliber quarterbacks. Here comes Carson Beck, of whom some people look at that could win the Heisman Trophy, or some people look at would be a first round quarterback. So here comes Carson Beck. And I know people laugh at, well, Mike Bobo is your offensive coordinator, but Mike Bobo has gotten a whole lot better in his latter years than once before with him being an offensive coordinator. He's starting to really scheme things out and put things together. So I think the Georgia game will be the first matchup to where we can really see where is this offense for real, where is this defense for real. I mean, you pitched a shutout, week one. These last 2 weeks, you've given up only one touchdown each in the last two games. Well, a touchdown against South Florida and a touchdown against Wisconsin. So decent job right now. Kane Womack has used a small volume of his defense. He's looking to bring some stuff out the bag, but can he bring stuff out the bag to where the guys are executing it properly? That's the main thing, but I will go B as well.
Yeah, I like it. And Raj, there's a question for you over there, so we'll get that in 1 second. We'll want to kind of finish out the Georgia stuff. Bama, what biggest concerns going into the Georgia game?
I mean, for me, it's the defensive side of the ball. What does Alabama do to slow down Georgia's offense? We saw Kentucky do a really great job on Saturday night slowing down that offense, so it can be done. The keys to me for Alabama is slowing down Georgia's running game. I mean, they're not gonna stop it completely, but that, to me, the running back position is one of the strengths of Georgia's offense. With Nate Frazier, Branson Robinson, so they've got a lot of talent at that position. They're really strong on the offensive line. Tate Ratledge had an injury in that Kentucky game. He's probably arguably their best offensive lineman. So I think the key for Alabama is to at least slow down Georgia's running game. I mean, I don't think it's going to be a vintage Saban performance where they just completely shut it down, but stop it enough where you put some pressure on Carson Beck. And then when Carson Beck gets into passing situations, you've got to pressure him in the pocket and make him feel uncomfortable. I feel like Alabama did a good job of that last year when Alabama and Georgia played in the SEC title game. They're going to have to do that again. Carson Beck has shown that if you pressure him and you make him uncomfortable in the pocket, that he will make mistakes and he will not be as crisp as he may be otherwise. So to me, those are the two keys in the game. I feel like Alabama on the offensive side of the ball, they're explosive enough. I trust Kalen DeBoer and Nick Sheridan to find ways to scheme guys open against this Georgia defense. I think they'll be able to run the ball a little bit. So I think the defensive side of the ball for Alabama is the key in the game.
Mm-hmm. Steven, them different concerns, same concerns. Where are you at?
So I got one offense and one defensive concern. My one offensive concern is, can this line up front hold up against Georgia's defensive front? Georgia's got a legit front. Kirby is going to want to bring heat to Milroe. We all know this. He's going to want to do twist looks, twist stunts, different defensive line games up front here. Can this offensive line hold up? That's Chris Kaplovich and his group. Can they hold up? If that offensive line holds up against Georgia's front, Bama will be able to attack Georgia's secondary, who has been suspect at times, whether it's deep ball passes, whether it's vertical, intermediate game. Georgia's secondary has been suspect at times to that, but Alabama's offensive line has got to hold up. My main concern defensively is going to be the tackling in this game. Fitting your gaps and tackling, getting everybody to the football and bringing down whoever's got the football. That's going to be the main thing for me. Can these guys get to that ball, make tackles? We have seen times where Bama may try to go for the turnover to rip the ball out and you miss the tackle. Or Bama may try to go for the ooh-wee knock them out hit, but they don't wrap up. And the guy bounces off, gets 3 to 4 to 5 more yards. So crisp tackling defensively and the offensive line holding up are my two things.
Yep. Raj, you have one main concern before we get in. You also have a question too, Raj. So give me one concern, and then
I'll
this
assess the question. Yeah. Main concern is the secondary for us. I remember if you go back to the earlier on in that South Florida game when the South Florida quarterback attacked Red Morgan and maybe somebody else 3 times in a row. Fortunately for us, he just overthrew his receivers. But we showed that they were kind of young. Our secondary was kind of young there, so they got exposed a little bit. So if we don't get enough pressure on Carson Beck, look to him to go deep a lot if he has enough time and try to go after our secondary a little bit. Other than that, to Bama Beat's point, as long as our front guys can get up there and put some pressure on them and make them uncomfortable, then we should be fine in that situation.
Hey, a couple areas to watch on the offensive side of the ball. I'm interested to see how does Kirby Smart attack Alabama's offense. Recently, especially with Milroe at quarterback, teams have had success bringing a lot of pressure, blitzing, bringing pressure in Milroe's face makes him feel uncomfortable. So to me, that's up to the Alabama coaches to out scheme that. Throw behind the blitz, quick passes, zone read game, beat them when they blitz you. Also, for Ryan Williams, he's been Alabama's key receiver this year.
Yeah.
How do they defend him? If I'm Georgia, I'm putting somebody up in his grill at the line, and I'm going to be very physical at the line of scrimmage and see if he can beat me with his release. He's a young receiver. He's slight. We all know he's 17 years old. He's probably not as physically, ready as some of the other receivers.
Yeah.
So if I'm Georgia, I'm going to get up in his face and I'm going to make him get a release off the line with physicality. So I'll be interested to see how Georgia attacks those 2 areas.
That's a good point. And I was wondering about that, Herb. I was wondering if this is going to be one of those quiet game, more of a quiet game for Ryan Williams, because that deep ball threat may not always be there. And how does he adjust to that? Does he come back to kind of get some passes? Does he get some shorter passes, or how exactly is that going to look?
And I was smiling during that point. Sorry, Steve, just real quick. I was just smiling during that one because this is the exact kind of thing that Randy was talking about this weekend, and how he thinks Georgia should attack them and how other teams are making a mistake not doing it. So that's why I was smiling about that one. Sorry, Steven, go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when you look at that, if Georgia's number one thing, as Bama just mentioned, is to be physical with Ryan Williams, try to take him out of the game as much as possible, then this is where, if you're Nick Sheridan, you've got to scheme up, okay, how can I get my best guy open, right?
Yeah.
How can I free my best guy? That's got to be schemed up. Whether you move Ryan around, whether you have him in the slot this play, at the top of the formation, at the bottom, you got to move him around. And this is also why I mentioned this is where the other receivers, the Kendrick Laws, have that play sheet ready, the Kobe Prentice, the Jeremy Bernards. Okay, they're not letting Ryan get loose. Time for one of you other guys to step up and make a play. I think this could be a huge game for Germ. I think Germ could go off this game. This could be a big game for Kobe Prentice, a big game for Kendrick Law. This could be, if used right, this could be a good game for Caleb Odom. If used correctly at 6'5", 230, this could be a very sneaky good game for a Caleb Odom. So it's just, this is going to be Nick Sheridan. Nick Sheridan in scheming your guys to get open.
I know you're mentioning Nick Sheridan's name, but based on everything you said, are you sure we're not going to see you on the sidelines with the headset, Stephen M. Smith, as far as calling the offense for the Georgia game?
You know what?
You made some very, very valid points. So I'm just saying.
You might. I'm just saying you might see me sneak a headset and put a green dot on it. And
I'm not going to be impressed if the chair doesn't make it with you, though. Like, if you can get on the sideline with the chair,
I don't want to see him walking. I don't want to see him walking at all. He's got to be. He's got to have like a motorized chair.
Don the chair will be on the sideline with me, and I'll be calling the plays from the chair.
I can just see him.
I'll be right there on the side. I with the chair. All right, guys, we're gonna run 25x dagger flight right. Go zig. Go zig out from the chair on one.
There's a moment every show where Bama shakes his head at us and go, "What did I get myself into?" But we'll say that to Charmaine, and she also echoed the point about.
Shout out to Charmaine. Thank you for joining us.
Yep. All right, Bama. Since we're not going to see you next week, what is your score prediction for the Georgia game?
Well, if you recall the last show I was on, I picked Georgia to win when we were doing our SEC
Oh yeah,
preview.
we're doing our play-by-plays. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
It just doesn't feel right picking Georgia though on an Alabama show. So
Speak your mind. Speak your mind.
yeah, so I'm gonna take Alabama. Yeah, I just feel like playing at home. I think we're gonna see a different Georgia in this game than we did. The game against Kentucky. I'm sure they're gonna be ready to go. Kirby will have them ready. I'm gonna say 34-24 Alabama.
Okay, sounds good. I like it. Barmaid, yep, that was one of their kind of unheralded guys, and that's they're echoing your point too as well. Somebody they're hoping to get off. So
yeah.
All right, guys, we still got a few minutes before we get to the end of the show here. Stephen M., you had a couple. Which story that you requested? Which one did you want to start with first? Which one's got you more fired up?
Okay, so the Bryce Young one does. So Bryce, Carolina is a complete dumpster fire. All right, complete dumpster fire. So Carolina, you draft Bryce, number 1 overall, the 2023 draft. You bring him in there. You draft no offensive line, no wide receivers whatsoever, and you got old Frank Reich by the trash can coaching. And you go 2-14 that year. So then you go fire everybody, right? You fire Frank Reich and the trash can. You let go of the entire offensive staff. Then you bring in this 30-something-year-old Dave Canales thinking everything's going to be better. You bring in 1 wide receiver. No, 2. You bring in 2. You still don't address the god-awful offensive line.
Right.
And then just 2 games into Bryce's second year. Oh, Bryce is not it. He doesn't cut the mustard. Get him out of here. Bryce sucks. He's bad. We're benching him for Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton. Andy TCU Red Rifle Dalton.
The Red Rifle.
By the way, it does not matter if you have Bryce, Andy Dalton, Sneakers, O'Toole. It don't matter if I'm out there. You're only winning 4 games.
Yeah.
With that team, you are only winning 4 games. Carolina, what are you doing? You have ruined this young man's confidence. That man looked like a defeated man after the first game of the season. Carolina, I have nothing to say to you, Carolina, right now. I have absolutely nothing to say to you. Like David Tepper, you're awful, okay? You are awful. You are the worst owner in the NFL right now. You are awful. Like, God,
David Tepper, if you're actually watching the podcast, we have the utmost respect for you. We just don't agree with your decision, but that's if you're listening to the podcast.
You are the
Bam, is
worst
there something you can
owner.
do about it? Can you free Bryce Young, or is it just
look, literally right now? Funny you mentioned that, Raj and Herb. Raj and Herb, I'm actually putting in a call to Commissioner Roger Goodell right now, and I'm working with Commissioner Goodell. Look, man, we got some moves we got to get here. We either have got to get Bryce to these places here. We can get Bryce to Pittsburgh, right? That wouldn't be terrible. We got to get Bryce to Pittsburgh. We can get Bryce to Seattle because I don't think Geno Smith's going to last too long there. And we can even get Bryce. We can even get Bryce, possibly, if we can make this work.
Miami.
Get Bryce to, God, I had this team on the tip of my head and it just left me. Why does it do this to me?
Miami?
We're hoping you're saying Miami.
Yes, Miami.
Yes. I'll take him. I'll take him.
Get Bryce to Miami. Literally.
Yep.
So,
and that's who Mike was alluding at right here because they're both Miami fans on this one. So
and
Raj, that's a good go ahead.
Get him out of Carolina. Carolina has been awful. And for the people that say, well, Steven, Bryce is small and he's getting hit, and that's the problem. Cam Newton was 6'6" and 240-something pounds, and he was getting hit and injured too.
Yeah. That's true.
There you go.
He is. I don't know. I don't know if I can follow that. He and this was a Steven. He actually requested this subject, something that he has never done on the show. I say, yeah, he's fired up about that. When you shaking your head, Bama, you following it? You with him?
Yeah, I mean, young quarterbacks are fragile. You can make or break a guy's career, depending on the franchise and how you handle a guy early in his career. We've heard Saban talk about it. I don't know if you've seen the HBO Hard Knocks when he's talking with the coach on there about how to handle a young quarterback. I believe it was the Bears, and how they're handling Caleb Williams. So, I just think his confidence is gone, and you can't play quarterback without confidence. I think Mac Jones suffered, something similar up in New England with how Bill Belichick handled that situation, and Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, and the fiasco that was on the offensive side of the ball. We see Mac Jones, get a new opportunity with the Jaguars. I realize he's not starting, but look pretty strong in the preseason. So, these franchises, you have to support young quarterbacks, and the Panthers certainly haven't done that with Bryce Young. So I hope he gets an opportunity with a better run franchise.
Yeah.
And Kat, this is something I said I wouldn't mind. And yes, Randy, it does at time, especially when you see, especially us being college guys. It's like we're sending our kids off and they're not being taken care of. So I would have started Andy Dalton last year. I don't even get why you would just throw him out there, because it lost kind of in that point. Not only did Carolina not have anybody, they traded away their number one wide receiver to go get him. So I don't like that was just terrible all the way around.
Well, in hindsight, wouldn't you have loved to see Bryce go to the Texans?
The Texans,
the Panthers. I mean, I know CJ Stroud's a hell of a quarterback, but that franchise is well run. DeMeco Ryans knows what he's doing. I mean, that would have certainly been a better landing spot. And the way their careers has gone so far, I think is a result of how the franchise has handled it as much as it is the player.
Yeah.
And then I think all of this is, before we get into the second part of this is all like the Patrick Mahomes effect. Everybody's trying to find the next Patrick Mahomes. It's Mahomes can do it. Mahomes don't have to have a running game. He don't have to have a receiver. He don't have to have an offensive line, throwing no-look passes. We got to find that Mahomes, but people are forgetting Mahomes has Andy Reid. Mahomes has the Hunt family as the organization in Kansas City. So Mahomes has a great head coach. And
he did not start when he first got there either.
Mahomes had some time to
and then Mahomes had time. Mahomes sat behind Alex Smith for 2 years. Mahomes had time. So I feel like, for a lot of these rookie guys, it's okay to sit down for a year or two and learn that system and learn that playbook versus you just being thrown out there. Now, like you mentioned, Bama, CJ Stroud's different situation. CJ Stroud comes to Houston. The culture's already set. You got the right coach and DeMeco Ryans. Nick Casella leaves the Patriots, goes to Houston, and shows you I know how to draft because Bill Belichick was handcuffing me all them years. So now I leave Belichick, I go to Houston, and I show you I can draft.
Yep. I agree, man. I agree. Raj, the second subject we're going to let you start off with because I know it's a little closer to your heart. Something you actually, Raj, had a special about. So if you're checking out our YouTube channel, go back and check him out. His thoughts on Tua when this first happened. Now that it comes out today, Tua's going on or he's not retiring. What were your initial thoughts when you heard this report?
So Tua is my favorite Alabama quarterback of all time. And obviously with him being drafted with the Dolphins, it kind of made me elated to see all that happening. With that being said, since he's only 26 years old, having 3 concussions within about 2 years, I'm not happy with him coming back. I do wish he would retire, but I'm not surprised because he is 26-year-old, and I don't think he wants people to remember him as his last game as suffering a concussion. And I'm pretty sure he feels like he has, something else left in the tank, which he probably does. But my concern is how is he going to avoid this same type of injury going forward? I know people mentioned, what if he wears the Guardian helmet or the padded helmet? I don't think that's going to be 100% effective against this type of injury because of the type of style of football that Tua plays. We saw him at Alabama. We saw him suffer that injury with Mississippi State when he could have just thrown the ball away, but he took a hit, had the surgery, etc. Obviously, the concussions 2 years ago, another concussion this year. He plays recklessly at times. He doesn't want to slide. I mean, with the most recent play, he got the first down. He could have just slid, and then we could have moved on and possibly scored. But he wanted to go for something extra. So, I mean, with all that being said, it's easy for me to say this because I'm not in his shoes and I'm not around him. I'm not a family member. I'm not part of the organization. But I would prefer that he would just retire, hang it up. He just got paid, save your money up, maybe get a job with the organization, so forth and so on. But I guess based on what we heard today, we will see more of Tua later on in the season. Of course, it won't be until week 8 until he's at minimum until he can play. But by then, I'm kind of looking at our schedule and saying, like, is it even worth coming back then? I mean, we play at Seattle on the 22nd. I don't know how that game's going to go. And it's just kind of like, if we're not, playoff bound, just sit it out and maybe come back next year. But easy for me to say that being a spectator.
Yeah. No, you're right. And to echo that, like, this is how he got hurt at Mississippi State. He had a chance to throw it away, but it was kind of like that last minute scramble after you've already been hurt.
And we were up by
my understanding. Huh?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, and to my understanding on this one, if he gets medically cleared and then he retires, he does not get that money. So
it's like 120 something million, 124 million that he just won't get. Yeah.
But if the doctors say he can go back out there and he retires, he doesn't get that money. So I don't think like he has to get back out there to do it. So, unfortunately. So, all right, Raj, we're a little bit over, so I guess we're gonna kind of wrap it up here. Okay. You got questions for Bama, right?
Yeah, I got a question for you, Bama.
I agree, Charmaine. I don't think I kind of echo with Raj. So I don't think he should be back.
Yeah, I would love to see Tua play again, but it's just like for his personal safety, I think it's best to hang the cleats up. But again, Tua's going to make that decision.
And I like this one, Raj, just because I wanted to give you a chance. Yeah, Mahomes better get the ball to Travis before he murders my fantasy team. Did you want to talk about your fantasy team, Raj, at all, or did you want to move on?
So I got 2 questions here for Bama. We're going to go. Listen, I'm 0-2 in fantasy. I lost my first 2 games. We stink. I'm not going to win. It is what it is. Question number 1 for Bama. Obviously, we got the Georgia game coming up next week, next 7 to 8 days. If you could pick 2 players from the Nick Saban era, 1 offense and 1 defense to implement for this team just for the Georgia game, which 2 players are you taking?
Minka Fitzpatrick on the defensive side of the ball.
He's always the pick, isn't he?
Yeah, that would be huge for our secondary. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to go with someone else. Offense is a little tougher.
Yeah.
Maybe Julio Jones. It'd be nice to have some physicality in that receiving core.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably a few offensive linemen you could consider there. Jonah Williams could maybe shore up that right side a little bit. But, I'm interested to see Elijah Pritchett, play against Georgia. I thought he played well against Wisconsin. So I'll be interested to see what he does at the right tackle position. But, yeah, I'd probably go Julio and Minka.
I like it. I like it. All right, Stephen M. Work, play, live, ditch.
Oh, man.
Former coordinators. Nothing bad though. Nothing bad this time. So we only do that to Raj and myself. So you're safe on this one. All right. Pruitt, Kirby Smart, Kevin Steele, and I feel like the easy one, Pete Golding. Work, play, live, ditch.
I know who I'm ditching.
I'm totally ditching Pete Golding. What you mean? Totally ditching Petey. That's too. I'm ditching Petey. So work, play, and live. I definitely would. I would definitely live with. I would live with Kevin Steele. I live with Kevin. He'd be a cool kind of next door neighbor. Get your newspaper off the lawn, man.
Yeah.
So, I like
probably in bed by 8 o'clock every night, though.
I would live with Kevin Steele. I would live with Kevin Steele. I would work with Kirby Smart. He would kind of make sure everything's put in place.
Oh,
I can play with old Jeremy Pruitt. I'll play with old Pruitt. Yeah.
I like it. All right, Raj, what you got?
All right, Bama Beat. I got a work, play, live ditch for you. This is Coach's Hot Seat edition. So we got Billy Napier.
Really.
Billy Napier, Sam Pittman, Dave Aranda from Baylor, and we'll do Mike Norvell. I don't know how hot Mike Norvell's seat is since he's having a bad season right now, but it might get there if they continue. So we'll just throw his name in there. So Napier, Norvell, Dave Aranda, and Sam Pittman. Work, play, live, ditch.
Well, I'll play with Sam Pittman. Yeah, he likes a cold beer. So he seems like he'd be a good one to play with.
Yeah.
Ditch is either Napier or Aranda. I'll go Aranda just because I don't really know much about Aranda. I'm a little familiar with Napier just from his time at Alabama. So I'll say ditch Aranda for now. Both of them are probably on the hottest of hot seats.
Yes.
And what were the other two? Who's
Mike Norvell and
Napier.
And Napier.
Well, yeah. Sure said,
So I'll live with Napier and I'll work with Mike Norvell.
Okay.
I'll say this about Mike Norvell. He was thrown around as possible candidate when Saban retired. I still think Norvell's a good coach. I don't know what has happened this year. That has just gone, as downhill as it could go. I think.
I'll tell you what happened. DJU is just not. It's just not there. DJ Uyunglele is just not there, and unless you are scheming for him to throw the ball across the middle of the field in an open zone, he can't hit anything. Yeah. And it's sad because he came out of high school as one of the most, high projected quarterbacks, but it has just not been great for him.
So if you're Malik Benson, how are you feeling this season?
You feeling like I should have stayed at Bama?
I mean, Roydell Williams, Earl Little, several guys, and a lot of those guys were going to be rotational role players at Alabama. So it's hard to blame them for trying to increase their role elsewhere. But I was trying to be a little diplomatic, but DJU, he's taken down many a coach. It's hard to believe. I don't know if y'all recall when he came in to play Notre Dame when Trevor Lawrence was hurt when he was a freshman, but man, it's just hard to believe how his career's panned out after what he showed in that game. He was really good in that game. So I think part of the problem too at Florida State is the reliance on the transfer portal. When you're pulling a team together with a lot of transfer portal guys that weren't starters or big time players at other schools, it's like Saban said on game day, if you play the wrong guys, you're going to be SOL. So I think that's happened with Florida State a little bit.
Yeah.
Agreed. All right, Stephen, we've asked you a variation of this question, and I think Bama will recognize this question. I think he's been through every variation of it. So this is the last one for you. So Alabama is down a touchdown. We're down 5. So we got to score a touchdown to win the game. Okay. National championship game. 2 minutes left to go in the game. We are starting at our own 25. So last time we were at our 3-yard line, you got one play. This time it's a drive, okay? From the 25, you got 2 timeouts left, right? Give me a quarterback, and this is from the Nick Saban era, a quarterback, a running back, and 2 wide receivers you'd want to cap off this drive and get us a touchdown, win the national championship.
Okay, so quarterback, give me A.J. McCarron. I just feel like when he's on those last minute drives, it's just talking about AJ, that tactician comes out of him. So give me AJ at quarterback. At running back, give me Josh Jacobs. I want Josh Jacobs at running back. My 2 receivers, let's go 2 receivers, and let's go Julio Jones, Jamison Williams.
Speed and strength.
Speed.
Yep.
I like it. Well, guys, appreciate it. Sorry for holding y'all over a little bit. We'll get somebody else in real quick. Yep. Tua, King Henry, Devontae, Coop. Raj's favorite player in there. Bama, tell everybody where we can find you, what you got coming up, and how much you love Herb and Raj. Doesn't have to be in that order. You don't have to say all those.
Yeah, definitely love Herb and Raj. So, yeah, so you can follow me at the Bama Beat on Twitter. Now that we're in the season, definitely more active on there. Try to post halftime thoughts, final thoughts with each game. Sometimes I'm in Tuscaloosa. Sometimes it doesn't get out, but we'd love to have people join the discussion on there. We like to interact with followers and everything. So if you want to give us a follow, you can follow me on there.
There's another answer for it too. Devontae Henry and Jameson. I like it. And this one. Now, to be fair, on the Raiders, he did win the rushing title one year. But yeah overall, it probably wasn't very good.
I got Jacobs on my fantasy team. He gave me some points, but we still lost anyway. So.
Oh yeah. Did you say you guys were 0-2, or you just hadn't won a game yet?
I think you were getting ready to ask Steven a question. Come on.
Steven, what you got coming up next?
First and foremost, you cannot beat Herb and Raj with a stick. So you guys are awesome. You guys are fantastic. Enjoy being here. I know what I've got coming up next Friday. I'll be in Tuscaloosa Friday. I got players. We're interviewing players on Friday. So they'll bring a few players in. We'll get a chance to talk to those guys and get that situated there. As I think Friday will be the last day of big practice for this week as they start off practice tomorrow. So looking forward to getting with those guys Friday and just getting their thoughts on how they've been going about the bye week.
Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Thank you both. I guess I should be.
Appreciate you guys.
But yeah, I could get petty on here for sure. Appreciate you guys, man. That was a great start to the Georgia preview week. Like I said, we still have our show next week. We've got Chris coming on, Georgia guy who does really, really great breakdowns. He'll be on our main show next week. And then we're doing a special series 2 nights, each Thursday, 9 p.m. Central Time, with Randy, who you guys see in the comments, who's trying to give us some rat poison about how Alabama's going to beat Georgia. Don't believe a word Randy says unless he's telling you good stuff about Georgia. Then he is the man when it comes to that. So, guys, we appreciate you guys always. You always make the show so easy. Like I said, we just throw something out and you guys run with it. We appreciate it. Love you both, man. Everyone who's watching, thanks for the comments. Everyone have a wonderful night and roll tide.
Roll tide.
Roll out.